tendencies and previous run-ins with the law that had never escalated to conviction. Behind his quiet exterior lay a history of control and violence hidden in plain sight. The community held its breath as the man was arrested and taken in for interrogation. This would bring the nightmare to an end, that justice would finally be served for Michel. But as the days unfolded, cracks began to appear. His confession was inconsistent, vague, and at times contradictory. Crucial details were missing, and evidence that could tie him directly to the crime remained elusive. Despite the shadows hanging over him, doubts. Imagine waking up one crisp autumn morning in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a small town where neighbors greet each other by name and the streets hum with the quiet rhythm of everyday life from the porch of their red brick home. Carrying her school bag, she walked steadily down the driveway. The cool air brushing against her first light of dawn broke through the trees. Mother watched from the kitchen window, smiling softly as her daughter waited for the bus to take her to class. But that smile would soon turn into worry. Hours passed. The bus came and went, but Michel never appeared. Calls to friends and school administrators revealed no sign of her arrival. Panic rippled through the community. A vibrant young life had vanished without a trace. Neighbors organized searches, combing parks, alleyways, and nearby fields. The police were called in, their officers methodical but grim-faced as they faced the unknown. The tight-knit town, safe and predictable, was suddenly gripped by fear and confusion. What had happened to Michel Martinko? Where had she gone? And why was there no sign, no clue for help? This was the beginning of a nightmare that would unravel a dark secret lurking behind the facades of small-town America. The search for Michel stretched into the cold afternoon, with growing dread shadowing every step. Friends, family, and volunteers combed the neighborhoods, their calls echoing through empty streets. As darkness approached, hope waned. Then, the unthinkable happened. Not far from Michel's home, in a field bordered by tall grasses and broken fence posts, a hunter stumbled upon a grim sight. There, hidden beneath the rustling weeds, lay Michel's lifeless body. The community's worst fears were realized. The crime scene was hauntingly silent. There were no signs of a struggle, no frantic footprints or broken branches. The only brutal evidence was the cruel mark of strangulation around her neck, a silent testimony to the violence that had been inflicted. It was as if Michel had known her killer, had not fought because the horror came from someone she trusted, or at least recognized. Her family was shattered. The vibrant young woman, full of life and promise, was gone, murdered in cold blood, mere blocks from the home she loved. The peaceful town of Cedar Rapids was suddenly a place of grief, suspicion, and fear. Police investigators flooded the scene, meticulous in their search for clues. Every inch of the field, every blade of grass was scrutinized. But the case seemed to defy them. No murder weapon was found, no fingerprints to follow, no eyewitnesses. The perfect crime. As the news spread, the town began to question its own safety. If someone could kill Michel, a familiar face in their quiet streets, then who was truly safe? The investigation had begun, but so did a haunting mystery of Cedar Rapids for years to come. In the days following Michel's tragic discovery, attention quickly turned toward those who lived closest to her, especially the quiet neighbor next door. To many in Cedar Rapids, he was an unremarkable, blending into the background like the faded paint on his weathered porch. No one paid much attention to him before, but now his presence felt heavy, suspicious. Whispers circulate. Neighbors recalled seeing him lurking near Michelle's home at odd hours, his gaze unsettlingly fixed. Some described a man who watched too intently, whose silence spoke volumes. A chill settled over the street, replacing the warmth of familiarity with dread. Police took these accounts seriously. When investigators questioned the man, they uncovered a past marked by unsettling behavior, reports of stalking, manipulative tendencies, and previous run-ins with the law that had never escalated to conviction. Behind his quiet exterior lay a history of control and violence, hidden in plain sight. The community held its breath as the man was arrested and taken in for interrogation. Many hoped that this would bring the nightmare to an end, that justice would finally be served for Michelle. But as the days unfolded, cracks began to appear. His confession was inconsistent, vague, and at times contradictory. Crucial details were missing, and evidence that could tie him directly to the crime remained elusive. Despite the shadows hanging over him, doubts began to creep into the minds of investigators and townsfolk alike. Was this man truly the monster next door, or just another piece in a much larger, darker puzzle? The search for truth had only just begun. As the investigation progressed, the neat narrative of a single, sinister neighbor began to unravel. The man arrested next door, once the prime suspect, started to falter under scrutiny. His confession wavered, details shifted, and inconsistencies multiplied. Police began to question his reliability. Was he hiding something or simply covering for someone else? Then new testimonies emerged. Witnesses spoke of another figure, a shadowy presence seen lurking near Michelle Eddy's home on the morning she disappeared. Unlike the quiet neighbor, this individual was volatile, known in the neighborhood for erratic and violent behavior. Yet for reasons unknown, he had largely escaped police suspicion until now. The discovery threw the entire case into disarray. Evidence that should have been clear was missing or mysteriously lost. Surveillance photographs vanished without explanation. A key informant, once willing to talk, suddenly went silent. The once promising investigation now felt like a fragile house of cards, teetering on the edge of collapse. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled of internal conflicts within the police force. Officers whispered about pressure to close the case quickly and about leads deliberately ignored. The community's faith in justice began to erode as confusion and fear spread. Parents kept their children indoors. Neighbors cast suspicious glances at each other, unsure who to trust. The darkness that had crept quietly into Cedar Rapids was now impossible to ignore. In this growing fog of doubt, one thing became painfully clear. The truth was more complicated and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Months into the investigation, a breakthrough arrived in an unexpected form: Michelle's diary. The worn, torn pages, some missing, others stained, had been discovered hidden away in a forgotten corner of her room. What remained was enough to send a chill through the police department and the community alike. Within the fragmented entries, Michelle's voice came alive again, raw, fearful, and desperate. She wrote about the growing sense of being watched, of footsteps lingering outside her window at night. She described strange noises that unsettled her sleep and a creeping dread she couldn't shake. But most disturbing were the hints of someone close, someone she trusted, who made her feel unsafe. The diary didn't name names, but the fear was palpable, a shadow cast over the innocence of youth. Police pored over the diary, cross-referencing dates and details with witness statements and suspect timelines. The neighbor E.S. alibi began to crumble as investigators noticed discrepancies with his whereabouts On nights, Michel felt watched. His silence became deafening. Meanwhile, another suspect emerged, a man with a volatile history.